我觉得播客应该不仅仅只是限于两人或多人对谈，其实关键的是这种形式。同时，我发现有不少关于跑步方面的书并没有中文译本，得益于现在 AI 技术，我们可以把一本书中的主要观点提炼出来，通过播客这种方式带给大家。如果大家觉得有帮助，希望了解更详细的细节，也可以找到原著来阅读。上面这段话也是 AI 生成的，你听出来了吗？考虑到忠实于原著所采用的语言及 AI 生成效率，所有的这些播客都没有翻译成中文。今天给大家带来的是第15期聊到的《Strength and Conditioning for Endurance Running》。我觉得这是一本极大的被低估了的书，所以在第一次 AI 播客的制作就把这本书带给广大跑友。
All right, runners, lace up those shoes because today we're going deep on strength and conditioning for endurance runners.
That's right.
And not just general S&C, we're talking about tailoring it specifically for you.
Absolutely.
So we'll be using Strength and Conditioning for E by Richard Blagrove as our guide for this deep dive.
Perfect.
Ready to bust some myths and uncover the secrets to becoming a stronger, more injury-free runner.
Let's do it.
I think the first thing a lot of runners think about when it comes to S&C is, am I going to bulk up?
Yeah, that's a really common one.
Am I going to get injured?
Yeah.
Can younger runners lift?
Yeah. All valid concerns.
So many questions. So let's tackle those anxieties head on.
Okay, let's debunk some of those myths right away. So first, the fear of bulking up.
Yeah.
It's a myth, especially for endurance runners. The sheer amount of cardio that you're doing actually counteracts muscle growth.
Okay.
So there's this thing called the interference effect, where basically because you're doing so much cardio, your body's not going to prioritize putting on muscle mass.
That makes sense, right? You're already burning so many calories.
Exactly. And the focus of strength and conditioning for runners is really about improving force production and coordination,
Okay.
not packing on tons of muscle.
So I shouldn't be afraid to lift heavy, basically.
You should definitely lift heavy, but we'll get into all the specifics.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I think another one is like, especially for people who are just starting to get into running, or maybe they've had injuries in the past, is it dangerous? You know, running is already hard enough on the body.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Statistically, weightlifting is actually safer than running.
Really?
Yeah, if you think about the repetitive impact forces of running, they're much higher than you would experience during a controlled weightlifting session.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay.
Okay, when you're weightlifting, you're learning proper form, gradually increasing weight, so you're actually minimizing that risk of injury.
So controlled movements in the gym are actually giving my joints a break from pounding the pavement? Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about younger runners?
Yes, younger runners, again, with proper supervision and a well-designed program, it's completely safe.
Okay.
And it can really reduce their risk of injury as they grow and develop.
So it's not about avoiding it altogether, but doing it right.
Exactly.
Okay. Another myth I hear a lot is like, if I'm sore, like if I'm not sore, then it's not a good workout.
Yeah, we've all fallen into that trap.
I know I have.
But you know that post-workout soreness, what we call DOMS?
Yeah.
That actually fades as your muscles adapt to the exercise.
So it's not about chasing that soreness.
No, it's not about chasing soreness. It's about consistent training.
Okay. I'm learning so much already.
Yeah.
But let's get into like the why. You know, we've busted those myths, but what's the big deal about strength and conditioning for runners? Why should we even bother?
Yeah, it's a great question. It all comes down to maximizing your running potential. We know VO2 max is really important, right?
All right.
It measures how efficiently your body uses oxygen. But what's even more important is how much of that VO2 max you can actually utilize for a specific distance.
Okay, so it's not just about having a high VO2 max. It's about being able to access it when I need it most during a run.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's where strength and conditioning comes in because it helps train those specific muscle fibers
Okay.
and energy systems.
Oh, wait. Different energy systems.
Yes, different energy
Tell me
systems.
more about this.
Yeah, so we've actually got three.
Okay.
We have the ATPPC system, which is for really short bursts of energy, like think of a sprint start.
Okay.
Then you have the glycolytic system, which is for slightly longer efforts, like a 400-meter race.
Okay.
And then you've got the aerobic system, which is what fuels those long, steady runs. And the thing is, running, even endurance running, it uses all three.
Wow. Okay. So even when I'm doing my long, slow runs, I'm still using those other two.
You're still using all three systems to some extent.
That's a lot to think about.
It is, but that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Yeah, this is where it gets really fascinating. How does S&C actually target those different energy systems?
Yeah, so you can think of it this way. Plyometric exercises like box jumps, they can enhance the ATP-PC system.
Okay.
Heavier weightlifting can improve the glycolytic system.
Mm.
And of course, long runs, they're key for developing the aerobic system. So by incorporating exercises that target all three, you're basically training your body to be more efficient and powerful,
Okay.
no matter the distance.
So it's like training smarter, not just harder.
Exactly.
The book also mentions something about tendons acting like springs. Can you explain that? It sounded kind of cool.
Yeah, so your tendons, they aren't just passive ropes connecting muscle to bone. They actually act like springs, storing and releasing energy during your stride. And we call this the stretch shortening cycle.
Okay. So those like bouncy, effortless strides I see in like elite runners,
Yeah.
those are their tendons acting like supercharged springs.
Exactly. So imagine like your Achilles tendon, it's like a rubber band. When you land, it stretches, it stores energy, and then as you push off, that stored energy is released, propelling you forward.
Oh, wow.
And we can train this.
Wait, seriously? We can train our tendons to be better springs?
Yes.
How do we do that?
Plyometric training. So those box jumps,
Oh, okay.
those explosive movements, they help make your tendons more responsive and efficient at storing and releasing energy.
So not only can we train our muscles, we can train our tendons too.
Yeah.
This is wild.
It's all about maximizing that power transfer.
Okay, so that's how those tendons work. What else do we need to know about how our bodies work during a run?
We need to also think about how our muscles work during different phases of the stride.
Okay.
So there are two key actions, eccentric and concentric.
Okay.
Eccentric is when the muscle lengthens under tension.
Okay.
So like think of when your quads are controlling your descent during landing.
So it's like a controlled braking motion?
Yeah, exactly. And then as you push off, those same quads, they shorten and contract
Okay.
to propel you forward.
Okay.
So that's concentric action. And throughout your stride, different muscle groups are working eccentrically and concentrically to keep you moving.
Okay. So when I'm strength training, I should be thinking about how those exercises are mimicking these different muscle actions?
Exactly. Exercises like squats and lunges.
Yeah.
They're great for working those key running muscles in both those eccentric and concentric ways.
Okay. This is starting to click.
Good.
So we've busted myths, we've explored the pretty fascinating physiology of running. We even touched on how those tendons work. What's next on our deep dive?
Let's talk about running technique and how strength and conditioning can make you a better, more efficient runner.
Perfect. Let's lace up and dive in.
When we talk about running technique, it's not just about aesthetics, right? It's about optimizing your biomechanics to move more efficiently and reduce the risk of injuries.
So it's like fine-tuning a high-performance engine. You need the power, but you also need the precision to make it really sing.
Exactly. Now, one of the most debated topics in running is foot strike. Heel striking versus forefoot striking. What's the verdict?
Yeah, I've heard so many different opinions on this. It's confusing.
Yeah, and what's often misunderstood is that the ideal foot strike isn't a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's about where your foot lands relative to your body, not whether your heel or forefoot touches the ground first.
Okay, so it's less about forcing a specific strike and more about making sure my foot is landing in the right spot.
Exactly. Landing with your foot too far in front actually creates a braking effect, which wastes energy and puts more stress on your joints.
Okay.
You ideally want your foot to land slightly in front of your hip
Okay.
for a smooth transition and efficient energy transfer.
So foot strike is more about position than just what part of my foot hits the ground first. What about pronation? I know that has to do with how my foot rolls inward, but beyond that.
Coordination is a natural part of running.
Okay.
As your foot lands, it rolls inward to absorb shock.
Right.
The key is having the right amount of pronation.
So how do I know if my pronation is off and what can I do about it?
If your foot rolls excessively inward, that's called overpronation. And that can put extra stress on your arches in your knees.
Got it.
And if it doesn't roll inward enough, that's underpronation, which can lead to stiffness and, those impact-related injuries.
Oh, okay.
Getting a gait analysis can help determine what type of pronation you have. But guess what? Strength and conditioning can actually help.
Really? S&C can improve my pronation?
Absolutely. Strengthening specific muscles can make a huge difference. For overpronators, we want to focus on exercises that strengthen the muscles supporting the arch of the foot.
Okay.
So things like calf raises, toe curls.
Well,
For underpronators, we focus on improving mobility and flexibility in the foot and ankle.
so we're targeting those specific areas.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got foot strike and pronation covered. What other aspects of running technique can S&C improve?
Hip position is super important.
Okay.
Remember those glute muscles, the powerhouse for runners?
Yes, those are
Yeah.
important.
Weak glutes often lead to what we call knee collapse and an inefficient stride.
Ah, the dreaded knee cave. I've definitely noticed that in myself sometimes.
Yeah, it's a common issue, and thankfully, very fixable. Strengthening your glutes through exercises like squats, hip thrusts, and single-leg deadlifts can make a huge difference.
Okay, strong glutes, check.
Cool.
But thinking about all the different phases of my stride and what muscles to target each time, it feels a little overwhelming.
It's easier than you think. Let's break it down into those 3 key phases: swing ground contact and push-off.
Okay.
And each phase has specific exercises to target those key muscle groups.
Okay, I like that breakdown. What exercises are best for each phase?
So for the swing phase, you want exercises that improve hip flexor mobility and hamstring flexibility.
Okay.
Things like leg swings, hamstring stretches, hip flexor mobilizations.
Okay.
During ground contact, it's all about strengthening those muscles that control your knee and ankle.
Got it.
So squats, lunges, calf raises. And for push-off, we're targeting glutes and hamstrings with deadlifts, hip thrusts, and some explosive plyometric like box jumps.
So I can literally build a strength and conditioning plan that mirrors the demands of my running stride.
Exactly.
This is amazing. Okay, so we've talked about foot strike pronation and hip position and how all these can be improved with S&C. But how do I figure out where my weaknesses are?
That's where assessments come in.
Assessments, like a test. I'm getting flashbacks to school here.
Think of it more as a personalized evaluation. We use a series of movement screens and capacity tests
Okay.
to pinpoint your strengths and weaknesses in things like mobility, strength, and stability.
Okay, that sounds a little less intimidating than a pop quiz.
Yep.
What kind of assessments are we talking about?
There's a whole range.
Yeah.
So an overhead squat assesses overall mobility and stability.
Okay.
A single leg hamstring bridge evaluates hamstring strength and endurance.
Got it.
And then things like a prone extension test measure the capacity of your lower back and hip extensors.
So it's like getting a snapshot of my current abilities. What happens next?
Once we identify your strengths and weaknesses, we can tailor your strength and conditioning program accordingly.
Okay.
So say you have limited ankle mobility.
Right.
We're going to focus on exercises that target that tight hip flexors. We prioritize stretches and mobilizations.
This is so cool. It's like having a personalized roadmap for improvement. So what do some of these exercises actually look like? I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty.
All right, let's do it. We'll start with those foundational strength exercises.
Okay.
Then we'll move into explosive strength conditioning and even some running drills.
I'm ready. Hit me with those foundational strength exercises.
When it comes to building a solid base for runners, squats are king.
Squats classic.
They target those crucial quads, hamstrings, and glutes.
But there are so many variations. Where should someone start?
Goblet squats are a great entry point.
Okay.
Holding a weight close to your chest helps with balance and encourages proper form.
Goblet squats, I can handle that. What's next on the strength building ladder?
As you progress, you can move on to back squats, where the barbell rests across your upper back.
Okay.
This allows you to lift heavier weights and challenge your muscles further.
Back squats bring on the challenge. What other strength building exercises are important for runners?
Romanian deadlifts are fantastic for targeting your hamstrings and glutes.
Okay.
They also engage your lower back, which improves posture and stability.
Deadlifts, those sound intense but effective. Any other glute-focused exercises?
Absolutely. Hip thrusts are another favorite among runners. They isolate and strengthen your glutes, directly translating to powerful hip extension during push-off.
Okay, so we've got squats, deadlifts, and hip thrusts for overall strength. What about those explosive exercises that train our tendons to act like super springs?
That's where plyometrics and some weightlifting exercises come in.
Okay.
Hang cleans, box jumps, medicine ball throws are all fantastic options. They teach your muscles to generate force quickly and efficiently.
Okay, these sound a lot more dynamic. Hang cleans, those sound like something out of the Olympics.
They're a weightlifting staple, but they're so beneficial for runners as well. They involve lifting a barbell from a hanging position to your shoulders in one swift motion.
Wow, I can see how that explosive movement translates to a powerful running stride. What about box jumps? Those seem a bit more approachable.
Box jumps are a classic plyometric exercise. They improve your vertical jump height and explosiveness, leading to a more powerful stride.
I'm feeling stronger already just thinking about it. And medicine ball throws.
Medicine ball throws, especially overhead throws, engage your entire posterior chain from your calves to your shoulders. They build explosive power and coordination.
Okay, so we've got strength and explosive strength exercises covered. What about conditioning?
Conditioning is all about injury prevention and building resilience.
Okay.
We're targeting those areas that are prone to overuse injuries in runners. So the book recommends barefoot drills to enhance foot and ankle strength and stability.
Barefoot drills. That's interesting. What do those involve?
Basically walking on different parts of your feet, your heels, your toes, the outside edges. They might seem simple, but they do wonders for activating those smaller muscles and tendons in your feet and ankles.
Yeah, I can see how strengthening those small muscles would make a big difference. What other conditioning exercises should runners focus on?
Calf raises are essential for strengthening your calves, which play a huge role in absorbing impact and propelling you forward. And don't neglect your hamstrings. Hamstring bridges and hamstring curls can help prevent those all-too-common hamstring strains.
All right, calf raises, hamstring exercises noted. Anything else?
Gluteal stability exercises are crucial. We talked about strong glutes, but those smaller stabilizing muscles need attention too. Things like clamshells, hip hikes, banded walks can work wonders.
So it's a team effort, all those big, powerful muscles working together with the supporting calf.
Exactly. And finally, let's not forget running drills. They're not your traditional strength training, but they're super valuable for refining your technique.
Running drills? Like what?
Think high knees, butt kicks, A skips, B skips. They exaggerate different parts of the running stride, helping you improve coordination, balance, and efficiency.
So they help translate all that strength and conditioning work into better running form. They bridge the gap between the gym and the road.
Precisely. Now, I know we've covered a ton of information today.
Yeah, we have.
From those myths and how our bodies work to a whole library of exercises, it can feel overwhelming.
It is a lot to take in. I'm feeling inspired, but also a little lost on how to put it all together. How do I actually create a training plan that works for ME and MY goals?
That's a great question. And that's exactly what we're going to cover next. Programming and periodization. We'll learn how to organize all this information into a plan that you can stick with. Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's take all this knowledge and turn it into action. Okay, so we've learned why strength and conditioning is important for runners. We've explored all those exercises. And now comes the big question. How do we actually create a plan that gets results?
Right, that's where programming and periodization come in. It's about organizing your training strategically to really boost your performance and minimize those injuries.
Okay, break it down for me. What exactly is periodization?
It's basically dividing your training into different phases,
Okay.
each with its own specific goals and focuses.
Okay.
Think of it as working smarter, not just harder. So a typical periodization plan for a runner might include phases for base building, strength development, speed work, and race preparation.
So like different checkpoints along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It allows you to gradually increase that intensity and volume of training, but make sure you're getting enough rest and recovery.
So you're not like burning out.
Exactly. You want to prevent those plateaus, prevent burnout, reduce that risk of injury.
So is there a specific periodization plan that works for every runner?
Well, that's where personalization comes in.
Okay.
Your plan should be based on your current fitness level, your goals for running, and the demands of the race that you're training for.
So it's tailored to ME and YBRI aspirations.
Exactly.
Okay, what are some of the key principles I should be thinking about when I'm creating a periodization plan?
One important principle is starting with that foundation of general strength and capacity building,
Okay.
especially if you're new to strength and conditioning.
So build the base before I try to add all the fancy stuff.
Exactly. Think of it as building a house.
Okay.
You need a strong foundation before you start putting on those walls and the roof.
Makes sense.
Then, as you progress, you can gradually shift that focus toward explosive strength and power as you get closer to race day.
Okay, build the base, then fine-tune for performance.
Yes.
What are things like volume and intensity? How do I know if I'm doing too much?
Yeah, you want to make sure those things match your experience level and how much you're currently training.
Right, okay, okay.
Don't jump into doing too much too soon. Listen to your body. And of course, rest and recovery.
I'm always bad at that.
Yeah, it's so important though.
I know.
Rest is just as crucial as the training itself. You need those rest days and easy runs so your body can adapt and rebuild.
Okay, rest. Got it. I have to say, I'm still a bit intimidated by the idea of creating a periodization plan from scratch.
I get it. It can feel overwhelming, but the book actually offers some really helpful examples to kind of guide you.
Oh, okay.
They have case studies of 3 different runner profiles.
Oh, cool. Case studies. I love those.
Yeah, so there's Victoria, who's a beginner, Ed, a younger runner, and Peter, who's more experienced, but coming back from injury.
Okay.
And each runner has a plan that's tailored to their own specific needs and goals.
So they're like blueprints based on where you are on your running journey.
Exactly. And by comparing yourself to these case studies, it can give you a better sense of what type of program might work best for you.
This has been such an eye-opening depth dive. I mean,
Yeah.
we've gone from debunking those myths and all that cool science to like so many exercises to help us become better runners.
It all comes down to understanding how your body works and then using that knowledge to train effectively. Remember,
Yeah.
strength and conditioning, it's not just about speed. It's about becoming a more powerful, efficient, and injury-free runner.
I love that. Strong, confident strides.
Yes.
And if you want to explore this in even more detail, definitely check out Strength and Conditioning for E by Richard Blagrove.
Such a great resource.
It really is. Well, it's been a pleasure breaking down this book with you today.
Likewise.
And to all of our listeners out there, remember, strong glutes, springy tendons, smart training, that's the recipe for unlocking your running potential.
Absolutely.
Keep those strides strong, and we'll see you next time.